Part 2 of MI Mother's Keeper hashtag Save DC series of Brushing the Dirt Off, a small business education discussion. This is part 2.
Adult decisions. If you look at it from a sports standpoint, growing up, if you were youthly playing pee wee ball, you played pee wee ball because you enjoyed it. But we have 10-year-olds now, 11-year-olds who are playing pee wee ball who are trying to get to the Nike camps.
Yes. But where does that come from? Why are our 10-year-old and 11-year-olds no longer enjoying the game and trying to get to Nike camps? Talk to us about that. Where does that come from, in your opinion?
It's big business. It goes back to what I said earlier, or what it is that we try to do. We try to partner with other organizations in the community to help strengthen and build pipelines for these kids to come out of bad situations. Well, the big corporations are doing the exact same thing. They're building pipelines to fill their aspirations. And the way that they do that is try to get you as early as possible. And that's just in the sports arena.
Okay.
But where at the age of 10 years old, you will go out there and play football because you love the game. Now at the age of 10-year-old, you're worried about your highlight film.
That's an analogy.
So our kids are faced with a lot of adult concepts at a very young age.
Okay.
And you tie in everything else that's out there, all the other challenges, is frustration on top of frustration, disappointment over disappointment. They need a safe place. And it starts by simply saying, you have value, I'm walking beside you, and I'm walking with you.
Value. So we legacy and value is what we're hearing around the table, and everyone has value is what I hear Mr. Carpenter saying, and what I hear both Ms. Tover and Ms. Dr. Cole saying is that there is a reality available for you guys to be able to address the anger and the frustrations, and by acknowledging the processes that many of you are having to navigate, there's no doubt that you're frustrated and angry. But is the reality of you being frustrated and angry enough for you to forego your chance at building your legacy, which is your children's right to have the opportunity to carry on your identity, as Mr. Clark indicated? Mr. Hill, when we talk about our young people having to navigate adult decisions and navigating an arena that is different than that we come from, what message would you have as it relates to our youth out there that are heads of households and not seemingly old enough to be considered as such? I had a gentleman recently that does work with young men asked a group of 10 young men that were not older than 18 to raise for those of them that were in the group that were heads of their households, primary sources of income for their families, to raise their hand. 6 of them raised their hand. What kind of message are we sending out to our listening audience that might hear a message from a Mr. Woods that says that they can do real estate and make money? They're hearing us talk about legacy and value, but the reality of their circumstances is that they are responsible for the income in their household.
First thing that comes to mind is that one should always seek counsel from their elders. It's a hard thing to say, but it is more important to do this because from those elders comes the experience of the challenges that await them. And oftentimes now we're seeing our young being forced into making those adult decisions with no understanding as to how to do it. Financial literacy is another part that many jump into, trying to do it leaning on their own understanding as opposed to having someone experienced to show them the way. Of all the successful people that I've studied, I never ever came across anyone who did it by themselves.
Okay.
They
I
learned
love that.
from somebody else.
Most successful people didn't do it by themselves. So with that said, and in that same vein, talk to us a little bit. I think I heard you say you own 19?
16 businesses.
16 businesses in how many different states?
6 different states.
6 different states, and I've also heard you say you're out of Ward 8.
Yes.
And I also heard you say that you can relate to some of our corner brothers and things like that.
Yeah.
How does someone of that origination end up in a position to have 16 businesses in 9 different states?
In 6 different
In
states.
6 different states, I'm sorry.
One is I came to realize early in life that service-related jobs or careers or businesses will always be here. But those service-related jobs are most oftentimes jobs that people don't want to work because they don't carry the fancy of the salary from a football player or a basketball player. But I learned early on that if you my grandfather used to share with me, you're a poor rat if you only got one hole to crawl in.
Okay, you didn't catch that. I know they did. You a poor rat if you only got one hole to crawl in. Wow. Wow. Okay.
And when I came to understand what he meant, he was teaching me diversification.
Okay.
Diversify yourself. Don't look to eat from the same tree every day.
Okay.
You're wealthy when you have many trees that you can eat from.
Okay. See what I'm saying? You bring a bunch of small business folks to the table, a hustler. You call yourself a hustler out there. You ain't hustled until you created more than one hole
We call it
for your mouse or rat to run through. Come on now, y'all. We may not be that far out of touch. Come on, Mr. Hill. Talk to us about diversification. You said 2 things, diversification and financial literacy. I don't want to forget that. But okay, and so you were fueled by what you had been taught. And so how did you know which business or which road you'd go down to create these businesses? And then when did things start clicking and,
I saw that, again, when I heard my uncles and grandparents and parents speak about the Great Depression and how you could just see that there was concern that we may end up in the same position once again. But there are things that no matter how great the depression must still go on.
Absolutely.
And I began to align myself with those services that must go on.
Okay.
And thus came the portable sanitation business, and when you look at that alone, is something that you cannot stop or ignore.
Absolutely.
It has to happen. Another one is the food. So if you become a provider of good quality foods, then there's another opportunity. Trash removal is necessary. And then we look at, and these are jobs that don't really require you to have a degree.
I was just getting ready to ask you, did you have to go and get some kind of certification? Did you have to read a book? How did you even understand how to become a business and incorporate yourself to all the things that get in the way?
I was intrigued early on in high school, in junior high school. In fact, I attended high school each and every day in a 2 or 3-piece suit carrying a briefcase. Right? And I was teased all the time because I was the bookworm and I wanted to be the big businessman.
I know that's right.
So it was a long time dream. But I saw people who were in business that were creating opportunities for those who didn't have the desire to be business owners or understanding of what it would take to do it. I learned early on too, some of us are leaders and some of us are followers.
Come on now.
And when we recognize what our purpose is in life, then doors begin to open when we operate within that. And I saw that one of mine was not of a position of being afraid to take the chance and be that sacrificial lamb, to go out there with the idea, create job opportunities of living wages, not just minimum wages.
And you say living wages a lot, and I know that you're making a point, but can you break that in layman's terms? What's the difference between living wages and minimum wage?
So in Washington D.C. right now, you have the average median income is roughly 61 or 63,000. That means that if you make less than that, home ownership is out of the question.
Okay.
Is basically what they say. But living wage jobs put you in the $60,000+ a year. Gives you the opportunity to pay your rent, your mortgages, your car notes, select your schooling for your children. Your health insurance is selected as opposed to offered. You have choice of life.
Okay, so 60. So when you out here talking and you saying living wages and you put people back to work and things of that nature, it is your intent to set people on the path of being able to have 60,000
Yes.
and beyond incomes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm talking numbers here because you guys are out there, you're surviving. But trust and believe, Miss Rhonda's from that life. 60,000, you out there? How many of you out there?
It's a great thing, Mr. Hillstone, because nowhere in America do they got housing set aside for minimum wage workers.
Come on now.
Right? So if you're on minimum wage, if it's 2 people in that family, you cannot afford a house.
Come on.
Right? Minimum wage is not going to get you nowhere. It might pay your electric and gas bill, right? But it's modern day slavery at minimum wage. You're not going to get I have nobody ever got rich working a minimum wage job. And minimum wage is not going to get you nowhere. It gets you a foot in the door. If you work a minimum wage job, you want to be there enough to learn that job from A to Z so you can turn that into your own business, right? But other than that, minimum wage, I don't understand why they never set aside minimum wage housing for people that's there. But you'll never be able to survive on minimum wage.
I love that, and I was coming your way about that. I want to get Mr. Wade back into this conversation because Mr. Wade works with our young men, 9th grade on up, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and so if we're listening in this conversation this evening, and we're a single parent out there, and we like what we hear, and we're getting motivated, but we're recognizing that our children still need to get on track to get to the point to where they can become sustainable enough in their age to be able to start to look into some of these opportunities because we all want houses, right? But we've got to get our children back on track. So I'm listening to this conversation. I'm a single mom of a young man or a young woman who is off track right now, and I hear something that has sparked my interest. How would reaching out to you help me help this young man so that we can get them back in the good graces of a wonderful program in the community that could line them up for a living wage situation, which would allow them to be able to look and think about home ownership?
Yes, ma'am. That was definitely a loaded question.
I'm a loaded individual.
I want to make sure that I answer all parts. Let me start by saying this in regards to education as a whole and what we want to do. We want to do whatever it takes to help a young man be successful. I think the great part about this conversation is we hear small businesses and service communities and service industries or members of the clergy. There are all types of ways to be successful of people of color in America. So we have to be able to reach our young men and women, see what they want to do. Once we know what that is, we have to be intentional about the preparation we give them, about what we put them in, about who we surround them around, so that they can reach, the level of success that Mr. Hill has.
And is that what you pretty much you can take them from any walk is what I hear you saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Regardless of what the dream is, you pretty much just want the body
Yes, ma'am.
so that you can mold the clay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Exactly.
I just want to make sure I hear you because I need to be able to make sure my single mothers understand that there's no prerequisite in that. And then why the royalty? And so why the royalty and not the White Institute? But why the Royalty Institute? I'm curious.
We wanted our people to see ourselves as royalty. It was very intentional. The way we act, the way we think, the way we talk, we need to go from being, I won't say that, we need to go to being or seeing ourselves as royalty as the people that we are and where we come from. So we were very intentional about whether it was the jerseys we wear or someone talking about our school, they would refer to us as the kings and queens that we are.
Okay, and then I know that when you mention Jersey, is it a prerequisite that they participate in the sports in order to be able to attend your wonderful programming, or is there some other ability under that umbrella that allows them to be able to come your way?
You do not have to play sports. All young men can attend our institute.
Okay, I love that. I love that. Okay, well, I heard Mr. Hill mention that when he was coming up, he wore suits to school. And of course, he wasn't the popular one. Well, he probably was popular, but not for the reasons that we like to believe. Because in our community, you know, we like to clown the one that's different. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? It's not popular to be different. But what I hear is that in him being different, in him setting his sights on what he wanted to be, he has now become that. And when he was speaking, it put me in the mindset of Jay-Z. There are many Jay-Z's in our community. So I'm going to throw this question out there because there's someone listening tonight who has musical aspirations. Every other kid is going to be a rapper, spitting bars. I need somebody at the table to tell me when we run across these talented individuals, the word discipline has to resonate on some level because everybody wants the bling and I got the talent. But somebody help me mold that into something that's going to be successful because I need them to hear out there that wherever they are, and if they're walking around spitting bars and talking about being a rapper of such, somebody pick that up and talk to me about the discipline of that.
That's basically what to put your guns down is it gives a platform that you wouldn't have. Because I'm a singer.
Okay.
But there's a danger to that too.
Okay.
When I sit and I talk with our young people, some of the beefing comes from the music.
Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
And when I say from the music, not necessarily the lyrics, but let's say you from Kennedy Street and then somebody from Trenton Terrace. They both spitting bars, right? Okay, then you take it from me. And then here we go, we got the chicks in the middle, we got the girls in the middle. You know, they coming on over there because you spitting bars. So now you got the brothers that's spitting over here in Trenton Terrace, beefing. Okay, now you taking our girls. You also, okay, if you on the block, you taking the money from our block because now we going up to Kennedy Street. So I'm just keeping it 100.
Okay.
So when we talk about music, we got to really be careful because that is one of the triggers that's setting off some of this violence in
Okay, let's talk about, but I don't want to be careful because
Well,
I want to be intentional. So that's an issue.
They get the beefing. That's one reason why I do it.
Okay.
So I'm able to bring those communities together.
Okay.
And they talk about it.
Okay.
And when I do that, I'm not pastor. I'm just don't come with no bull skate. I ain't scared if I got to take my earrings off. We gonna talk about it. We can agree to disagree, but you gotta let them do it at their own language.
Okay, so I'm gonna stay right in that vein right there because tonight's conversation is about being effective in reaching our youth out there. So why that conversation hits this table is because there's a business in being able to follow your singing career. There are contracts involved. They tell me that these young boys, these young women come out to Hollywood or wherever it is to do the business of singing and not prepared with the contract understanding. And so they get excited and someone's going to take advantage. There's royalties out there, they tell me, to be protected. And so you're talking about beefs locally that many of them that are talented out there are not even going to be able to graduate to the understanding of the business of the music to make the money because of the beef of the neighborhood settings.
Not just that. I could be a lot further in music, but when you get in that industry, if you ain't willing to suck and lay, they gonna block you.
Okay.
And that's real. That's real in that industry.
Okay. And so
again, you have to come together, and it's very few that will come together. Especially, I'm gonna keep it 100.
Please
if we black, we forget where we come from.
Okay.
We sell each other out.
Okay.
And that's a big problem because we have become so materialistic.
Okay.
So let it rain. So whoever gonna let it rain, that's what we gonna do.
Okay. So being materialistic and selling each other out is a characteristic of their legacy. So you're telling me that you're out there being foul And
Just
your
order-
child is going to be carrying on the legacy of someone who's not been a trustworthy individual. Okay, Mr. Woods, coming your way. I'm just trying to break this down because, you know, they would have us to believe that there's a disconnect in the generation and we just don't understand them. But I'm just, you know, want to understand why they think that this is so hard to follow. Because if you're out there because you're trying to make your bag, or you're out there because you're making a name for yourself, but I've heard things, you know, there's beefs, there's a understanding of what neighborhood, and I think that the women, I haven't heard anything relevant to really justify why you should take your focus off of your success or your willingness to want to be successful. So I'm coming back your way with the understanding that you're saying that they can walk in your doors where they are with the understanding of learning how to become a millionaire in a 12-month period.
Yeah.
Now, in that setting, in that understanding, when you have someone under your tutelage that is from a neighborhood and another one's coming in from the opposite neighborhood that Dr. Coles is speaking of, how are you going to handle that when both of them potentially have the ability to be millionaires, but they haven't done what they need to do work-wise to deal with their mindset?
Well, it's already done. Look around. Everything you see around you, right? This, everything you see around you, somebody thought of first. It's the way you think, right? You Think and Grow Rich, one of the best books I ever read. Everything you see, somebody thought of. It's nothing you can't do. So, you know, you gotta leave that nonsense out. You think that you're gonna be a millionaire, surround yourself with millionaires, you're a millionaire. You know, you follow the perception with that music, the stuff you see on TV, it's not real. It's not real. The media stuff not real. Like you say, you got to study that industry. It's so crooked, it's so deep, it's so deceptive. Do you really want to be a part of that?
Yeah.
Right? Do you really want to be a part of it? Once you dive deep into it, you realize, oh man, you probably been better off on the street than getting into some of that nonsense that they got going on. I can tell you that now. And they get ripped off and the money's not even worth it.
Okay.
Right?
I'd like to share something.
Okay, come on, Mr.
And
Hill.
this made me think about what he said. This is what I experienced early because of COVID. In my industry of portable sanitation, there were 4 companies that manufactures all the hand wash stations in the United States. And one of those suppliers I used before, but when I called them to say, hey, I need to order about 100